You know how one of the arguments that libertarians and right-wingers will have that's like a very, very anti-tax argumentation is that nobody is entitled to somebody else's money. What's that thing that you keep hearing people say about Zoran Mandani? Eventually you run out of other people's money. The very, very ill-informed statement, because money is not actually truly a finite resource. It's a social thing that we created so we had a shorthand to deal with each other economically. But treating it like an infinite resource does cause inflation, so there is a crackback to that. Point I'm trying to make there is that you hear a lot of right-wingers and libertarians use this somebody else's money argumentation all the time. And I would think it has some merit if we could at least come to an understanding that, by definition, profit falls into that category. Just think about it. Think about it for just a moment. What is profit? It is the excess that is left over, that is not paid to a worker, that they made with their work, that then goes into the company coffers. Now, there is a certain amount of that money that certainly needs to be spent on things like improving the company itself, expansion, being able to market, all that kind of stuff. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the stuff that just makes it into the CEO's pockets. As an example, earlier, a conversation was had in the chat about an individual in the chat who was working at a place for disabled people, and as one of the policies they had was that you got paid 25 cents less than minimum wage. What is that 25 cents? It's theft. That's what it is. You categorically earned that money. It is your money. It's the money that you made. However, that money is being skimmed off to be handed to somebody else. There is no word for that other than theft. Said wage theft. That is what it is. That is what it is. And then you'll get things put up on company billboards about shit like time theft, as if we're in fucking Persona or some shit. Then the Goblin says, just remember in the 1940s when corporate tax was 70%, they were incentivized to use profit to upgrade their company and pay their workers more than they explicitly not to not lose it to taxes. Yeah, no, that's... There are material arguments in favor of having higher taxes on rich people. There are 100% material gains to be had in that realm of argumentation. At the same time, the part that I want to focus on is the fact that we have this weird idea that profit is completely natural. It is a natural byproduct of doing a capitalism good. When, if we were a little more honest with ourselves, we'd recognize that categorically those are the fruits of somebody else's labor. They're not the labor of the CEO. They're not the labor of the business owner if it's a large enough business. It's the labor of the workers on the bottom. And every dollar you skim from those workers to enrich yourself as the CEO, as the company owner, every dollar you skim off there for profit is a dollar that you categorically did not earn. We can have the memes forever about spending somebody else's money, but when presented with an actual, honest-to-God, true blue scenario, where somebody else's money is in fact being spent, suddenly that's different. Suddenly that is viewed completely differently. That's not really a good argument anymore to these people. That's wild to me. I am not saying that the owner of a company shouldn't be able to make money. But we can accept a couple of truths, I think. One of those truths is that the entire mentality behind line go up-ism, which is the constant growth at any rate, pretends that money is an infinite resource in such a way that it guarantees inflation. As I said before, technically money is an infinite resource because it is a stand-in for trade. And as a stand-in for trade that has a socially accepted set of numbers attached to what its values are, technically speaking, we could put any number there. So, yeah, money is, in fact, technically infinite. But when you treat money like infinite, the inadvertent side effect is you get a bunch of inflation. And the Sonic the Hedgehog fans already have a corner on that fucking market, I promise you. Acta says money is a jackal. No, money is a social construct, a lot like gender. Then it says, we should abolish currency and trade all goods and services for blowjobs. That would solve all our problems. No, it wouldn't, because then people who lack the ability to give a blowjob or do not feel comfortable giving a blowjob to the person who is trading them rice and beans that day will suddenly be out of any ability to function. You just create a hyper-ableist society. Why am I doing this? Why am I going down the conversational argumentative rabbit hole about the economic effects of trading to blowjobs as currency? What the fuck is wrong with me? This is the thing I fixate on. This is the thing I fixate on. I said, this is your job? Yeah, this is what I do for a living. What's wrong with me? What is wrong with me? As another example of wage theft, consider this. Without YouTubers, YouTube doesn't make any money. It is actively, in every way, shape, and form, impossible for YouTube to generate any revenue without YouTubers providing content free of charge to YouTube. Now, YouTube is very expensive to run. It gets more expensive to run the more YouTubers there are. It gets more expensive to run the more things that are put on the platform, technically. So there is an argument to be made that there is an amount of currency that comes downwind from content creators that is, in fact, supposed to be in YouTube or Twitch's pockets. I'm not going to say that that's not the case. That is 100% the case. They are entitled to a portion of that currency because they provide a platform that allows things to function in general. But as the owner of the platform, they get to arbitrarily decide how much of that currency we actually deserve. Once upon a time on YouTube, I made $3,000 to $4,000 a month. I now make closer to $1,000 a month. I haven't had a significant shift in how many views a video makes, and there hasn't been a significant shift in the amount of content that I've made. But YouTube deserves a little more currency every single time. Orla says, didn't YouTube just make record profits as well? I'm not 100% certain. I know that Twitch operates as a loss leader. Twitch actively doesn't make a ton of money that it does not also spend, functionally. Kuzgagi says, many herbicides are actually growth accelerators that force a plant to grow beyond the limits of its energy, killing itself in the process. You see the same with corporate growth, where otherwise viable businesses are forced into unsustainable growth patterns to keep increasing shareholder value. That is one of my issues with Wizards of the Coast. And not necessarily Wizards. The issue primarily lies with Hasbro Incorporated. Hasbro, as a company, wants Wizards of the Coast to be a hyper-profitable company. Because Wizards of the Coast is the only thing making them any significant amount of money anymore. And I would say that it is actively harming the game to try to push for revenue at any cost, which Wizards has been doing. Getting secret layer after secret layer after secret layer, after set after set, after universes beyond tie-in after tie-in. It's an unsustainable thing, and Hasbro wants Wizards' line to go up more and more and more and more and more. And I 100% blame Hasbro for that. I actually did a video talking about that a little bit over on the Magic the Gathering channel. That Wizards staff should be in a union, for sure. Speaking of that, Wizards staff is trying to unionize, at least the arena team is. They are. If we can agree that profits are, in fact, money that is earned over and above the... money that is earned over and above the money that is given to the laborers who actually generate the income for any given place. If we can accept that truth, then we should be able to accept the following truth, that the workers should have a lot more say in how much of that money makes it to their pockets. Because if you don't have a union, the only people who have say in that, in any way, shape, and form, are the CEOs. They are the ones who ultimately make those decisions. And they're the only ones that could make those decisions. And those decisions get handed down to the staff below, and then they have to be enacted at threat of being fired. So I think we can at least agree on one small truth, and that's that if profit is that excess, then workers should be able to have more negotiating power about that profit. I don't think that's unreasonable. Then we just have to have the conversation about how you get to that stage. And unions are how you get to that stage. Dorita Day says, Suris, that's communist, liberal, Marxist, socialist, leftist, Nazi propaganda. Kuzagaki says, with a carve-out for worker co-ops, etc., which don't really need a union, though that kind of structure is uncommon. Right, a worker co-op is functionally union as business. Clueless Expert says, how do dono subs and things like that play into your business into the business of the YouTuber economy? Is that profit? What about a dono for Warwords? So, is a donation profit? It depends on your definition of a tip. I think that tips operate a little bit categorically different than labor for profit. Because labor for profit is, I have created a thing, and that thing generated a certain amount of income or did not generate a certain amount of income. Whereas a tip is a singular person making the personal denotation, I think the thing you are doing is worth this amount of money I am handing you. Also, God fucking damn it, thank you for the $100 I'll throw. Ooh, woo. God fucking damn it. Okay, that's going into the credit fund. That's just going in. So, like, any amount of money that I'm getting right now that's not, like, a Twitch sub is immediately going into credit to just pay that down. That's the only thing it's going to right now. So, thank you. Jesus Christ. Hey, you made it to the end. I want to give an extra thanks to the patrons who allow me to do this full time. I want to thank Aaron Rail, Astral, Britzkrieg, Jemshin, Poundini, Red Joker, Victoria, Jonas, Craig, Tarika, Fireshard, Smiling GM, John, Dren Hadamada, Creeper, Sagitt, you know I'm not saying that last part, Sylvie Snow, Valis of Seraph, Ottoman Angel, Rooster Rachel, and Fire Panda, who are all my $20 and up patrons.